I haven't posted anything good in a while. Gotta do that now. But what to do? What if you redesign Sonic characters? Oh yeah, that could actually work. Thanks, 6084. Wait, 6084? What are you doing here? The last uploads have been complete and utter shit, if I'm being honest. And also, I'm still mad at you for going on my blue sky without asking me. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Should I go grab the other legacies or... Yes. Alright, I got them. Alright, what's going on? Alright, I'm gonna show these off in the order I finished the redesigns. It's because that's just easier in my opinion. Instead of coming up with some weird way to put it all together. Since I did like 4 essentially random picks, so... Okay, so the first redesign I finished was actually Shadow. So here we have the Shadow redesign. Well, this one I kind of already showed off on my community tab and also on my blue sky. But I didn't really show off the full thing, I just showed off the line art. Now, I think the weirdest choice I made with the redesign for Shadow is probably him having yellow gloves in this. And I did that, I don't know why, actually. I think it was just because as I figured the white gloves would make it look more incomplete. So that's kind of the only thing I can think of for giving him the yellow gloves. Another thing I did was make his quills longer, and that's just because I really like longer quills on Sonic characters, as well as also adding a bit more red to the design, and making some of the red parts of its quills sharper, because I think it looks cool. I also added the kind of red padding from Sonic Boom's design. And that's like the only part of the Sonic Boom Shadow design that I like, so therefore I obviously had to include it. And I think it actually, rounds out the design more. I actually added a unique gimmick to this design, that being that whatever Chaos Emerald he has in his possession at that current time is what his eye color is. I think this is more interesting than just him always having red eyes. And that about wraps up the redesign for Shadow, which ends up being my favorite of all the redesigns I've done. So time to move on to my redesign for Sonic. This redesign kinda uses a few different references to other designs and some unique details as well, such as the black marks on Sonic's quills that I added for some reason. I don't know, I just thought it would look cool. Sonic's shoes kind of pull from the soap shoes as well as his normal shoes that he usually wears. And he also had a bit of gold detailing on it as well, just cause I could. And I think it adds to the design. He also has a red bandana around his neck, in which case I added to reference his boom design. And also ensured that it was red so that it actually didn't have too many clashing colors. I also gave him bandages representing his boom design, because honestly, he needs some. He be doing some wild crap. He may need some bandages, I also gave him blue arms to represent his movie design and also boom design, I guess. However, I also just made them a lighter blue to also represent his usual tan arms, cream arms. I don't really care. But I thought it was the best of both worlds. Moving on to his super form, because yes, I did redesigned his super form a bit too. The only real difference, aside from having the redesign be there instead of the normal design, is that all quills go up, so even the back quills go up, which is kind of based on this thing I've been seeing recently where people have been making all of Supersonic's quills go up whenever Sonic's in his super form. Don't know how it started, but I think it looks pretty cool, so The last part of this redesign that I want to talk about is the Supersonic 2 redesign that I did, which turns the black marks blue, the black marks that were on his quills. And I did this because I think it looks cool. A lot of this was because I thought it looked cool, and honestly, it surprisingly came together in a cohesive design. And that about wraps up Sonic's redesign, so it's time to move on to Whisper's redesign, because yes, I redesigned Whisper before any of the other classic cast. So Whisper doesn't have a lot of designs to go off of, so I just had to get a little bit more creative than I would have for Sonic and Shadow. Don't get me wrong, I still was creative with them, but I had to be extra creative with this Whisper. And if you're wondering why I chose to redesign Whisper over anyone else, I just really like Whisper, okay? Now, one of the things that I decided to apply to this design was a bit more turquoise in the design, in which I decided to add because of the fact that the character tends to actually have turquoise as, well, not a primary color, a kind of highlight color, I guess, with her wispin and mask, and also any extra outfit she ever usually wears. So I decided that the turquoise would be pretty cool to add to this redesign. For the redesign, I also applied some more length to her hair, and I don't know why I did that. I just felt like it. And so I kind of added 2 hair ties instead of 1. And I also added more pockets to the cloak because, look, I was just trying to think of fun things that I could add to the design. I also gave her orange sports tape around her right arm, and that is to reference Tangle. I also gave her a new mask design and a mouth cover for some reason, and also a bit of a new Wispun design. And that wraps up my Whisper design, and I kinda like it, kinda don't like it. Probably not the worst one I've done, but not the best either. Anyway, time to move on to the last redesign I did of Blaze the Cat. This is arguably my least favorite of the redesigns that I did. Firstly, I should talk about how I changed her tail to look like the end of it was more or less a fire to represent her fire abilities. I also gave her a bit more longer hair, I guess, in her ponytail. And also I changed up her high heels a bit. I also added some yellow royal cuffs on her arms for some reason. Look, I was just doing stuff and it was working. I also heavily edited her Burning Blaze form, which is kind of why I don't really like this redesign. Because, I thought of the idea of her head gem turning a bit more flame looking shaped, and I kind of just made everything else essentially just Burning Blaze, but more or less just red. This is the reason why I don't really like this redesign as much as the others. Sorry, I just don't have a lot to say about my Blaze redesign, honestly. So that kind of just ends the video. Thanks for watching until the end, and let me know if you like my redesigns. I think they were pretty okay, honestly, but I do want to know, and also want some criticism on how I could improve in the future. Anyway, have a good one, everyone.